So in previous videos, I've suggested a few practices of self-care, ways that you can train your attention by using focus exercises, very much like training muscles in the gym, to strengthen the qualities of your attention, to bring yourself to the present moment in a way that's less and less overwhelming and one in which you feel more and more empowered. And so we've talked about what it's like to scan your attention through the sensations of the body and how to find emotional experiences in the body. We talked about how to notice thoughts come and go, mental images and mental talk, and how to gradually train yourself over time to learn to let go of, or get less caught up in, or be less identified with what it is that's coming up in your mind, what kinds of thoughts arise and pass. So what I'd like to share with you today is somewhat of a kind of combination of that, of all of that. This is a wide open awareness practice, which means that when we experiment with it for a minute, and when I ask you to try it on your own, anything that you happen to notice will be just as much a part of this practice as anything else. So that's kind of unique because it means you literally, technically, could not be distracted. There's no such thing as distraction as you do this practice, because anything that your attention goes to or is, quote, distracted by could become a part of the practice right then and there. And that's pretty useful. So with open awareness practices like this one, you just notice where your attention goes, and at a steady pace, just observe and acknowledge where it is, and notice the details of what it's noticing. It's kind of that simple. Now, it might feel like there's a lot going on all the time, so it can be helpful to narrow in a certain few categories of your experience. That means sort of categories of things you may notice, to make it a little easier to organize what you're doing and what you're noticing. So it seems to me to be helpful to consider the fact that from the moment you were first aware in your life of anything to right now, to through the rest of your life, you could understand all of your experiences as being made up of just three things: of see, hear, and feel. Visual, auditory, and somatic experiences. Now, there's a kind of outside and inside of each of those. So we see around us, we hear physical sounds around us, and we feel physical sensations. So like the temperature of the room, pressures of weight, and things like that. And we can also lop in taste and smell as a part of those bodily sensations that are kind of physical in nature. But we also have this inward side of see, hear, feel. And we've talked about this already. There's mental images in the mind, thoughts we see. We also have mental talk, thoughts we hear. So that's see and hear in our thoughts. And we also have more subjective or emotional types of sensations in the body. Normally we think of emotions as being something that's kind of hard to put our finger on, but as we talked about, finding emotion in the body is actually something that can be done. If I feel scared, I might feel a tension in my chest or my stomach drop. If I feel angry, I might feel tension in my hands and feet. I may feel flush, in the face and the head. So those sensations that are just bodily sensations, they also have this extra charge to them, this kind of emotional flavor to them too. So it's kind of like an inward version of feel. So we have see outwardly and inwardly. We have hear outwardly and inwardly. And we have feel outwardly and inwardly, more emotional type body sensations. And that's it. That's all that there is that you could possibly experience in your life. Now, if that doesn't sound right to you, that's fine. Add a category here and there to fill it out if you want, but This really simple system, it's kind of a taxonomy of your consciousness in a way, can be quite interesting to work with because it narrows your experience down into really manageable pieces instead of it feeling like you're in a phone booth with a swarm of bees. There's just this, or this happening at any given moment. So the practice that I'll suggest, that we can call see, hear, feel, is simply to notice where your attention moves around you or within you, your thoughts or your emotional body sensations. And at a steady pace of every couple of seconds, simply use the words see, hear, or feel to acknowledge and then focus on the detail of what you've noticed in that moment. Now, focus on the detail doesn't mean describe it to yourself, have a lot of thoughts about it, hang on to it, try to keep it still. It just means notice if it's moving, notice if what you've acknowledged is changing, or if it seems to be staying the same. Notice if it's pleasant or unpleasant. No, that's fine. Just acknowledge and focus in on the detail the best you can, using the words see or hear or feel to kind of mentally note or label where your attention has been drawn. So let's try that for just a couple of minutes. If it's a little confusing right now, don't worry about it. Just dive in and try it out, and I'll give a couple of cues as we go. Okay? This is a practice you can do eyes open because we can label all the physical sights there are around us. But I do typically recommend people at least let their eyes half close. It can be a little easier to kind of work with the inner thoughts and emotions that usually are what get us if we're going to be, in distress. So whatever you wish, eyes open or half opened or all the way closed, do your best to maintain an upright posture. You can find that posture now as you close your eyes if you choose to do that. Let your spine lengthen up and the muscles relax around it the best you can. And if you need to move a little bit and shift your weight, you can do so, but try to find a posture that you can be relatively still in for a couple of minutes. And you might even choose to relax the muscles of your forehead and eyes, your temples and jaws. Let the muscles of the shoulders relax and settle. And soften the muscles of the stomach and let your breath move more effortlessly in and out of your body. And now, if you haven't already done so, just do your best every couple of seconds to notice where your attention is. Notice if it's being drawn to sights or sounds around you. If it's being drawn to thoughts that you see or thoughts you hear. Or if it's being drawn to any physical or emotional feelings in the body, any sensations you notice. And at a steady pace of every few seconds or so, acknowledge where your attention is by using the label see or hear or feel. Silently labeling in your mind and then focus in on what you've labeled for just a couple of seconds, noticing the detail or the nuance or the subtlety of what it's like to notice it. If you're not sure what label to choose, don't worry about it, just do your best. This isn't about getting the right label, it's simply about acknowledging where your attention is and using the label to help you with that. If you feel like there's a lot going on at one time, just choose one thing at a time. It's okay to feel confused, it's okay to feel lost. If you do, in fact, you can maybe notice where you feel that in your body and label feel. If you notice having a lot of thoughts about what we're doing right now, or if you're lost in thought about what will happen later or what has already happened in the past, you can use the words see or hear to label those thoughts. If there's sounds or any sights around you that grab your attention, you can use the word see or hear to label those. Whatever happens to be going on, just keep at a steady pace, acknowledging where your attention is drawn, using the labels see or hear or feel. Then focus in on what you've noticed for a couple of seconds. Do this again and again. Continue on your own for a moment. Okay, great. Now you can go ahead and open your eyes if they're closed and look up. Now this focus exercise may feel a little odd, may take a couple of tries to get your sea legs with it. But what I'd encourage you to do is to try to commit to it for a period of time on a daily basis. See what it's like to really live with it for a week or 2 weeks. And also try, in addition to segments of time once a day, and I normally recommend people try to dive in and really get a feel for it, to try 10 or 12 minutes at one time every day. And that can feel kind of like a long time, and sometimes it zips by and no problem. And also, in addition to that, try peppering in this practice throughout your day, maybe a half dozen times for little spurts. 15 seconds here, a minute and a half here. Using those 3 labels, see, hear, or feel, to simply acknowledge what's going on around you and within you. Noticing where your attention is, what it's drawn to moment by moment, and noticing the details of what it is that you're experiencing. This can help us in a couple of ways. It can help us be more clear with what's going on, without getting lost so much in the sometimes confusion or chaos of our minds or our emotions or what's going on around us. It also helps us simply manage in smaller pieces what can feel like such a big thing. This is especially true with like reactive emotions. Emotions feel like one thing, often one large, daunting, intrusive thing, when in fact emotions are really just a combination of bodily sensations that come and go, that swell and sink, that change and move, and thoughts that you see and hear in your mind. So those 3 ingredients are really what make up what feels like this daunting big emotion. It's really just these smaller pieces blipping in and out. And training yourself to see that in real time is really liberating. You can be in the moment of really intense anxiety or worry or sadness or anger or shame even, and be with it so fully, be present with it so fully that you see it break up into its smaller pieces. And even though it doesn't go away, it feels more manageable, less problematic. So work with this on your own, experiment with it. Again, treat it like with a playful attitude, but try to commit to it. See what it's like for you. A daily practice, 10 or 12 minutes. And then a half dozen times throughout each day, where you just use it as a touchstone. Little spurts of practice to bring you back to what's going on in a clear and stable way.